Flipside by Bedhead. Chapter 5. It was a peaceful trail that led away from the buildings of Ponyville. A dirt road winding its way past a narrow stream, heading towards forests in the distance. Numerous birds, rabbits, and various other tiny creatures seemed to line the path. Most seemed to be enjoying the serenity away from the bustling pony folk in town. Most of the animals seemed to be content to watch the pair of strangers now using the road. Twilight's camera was out, snapping photographs of the local wildlife, as Spike carried her along. "You know what?" he asked Twilight's camera's bold west again. "I don't think we went this way with Ditsy earlier." "You're still not harping on that, are you?" Twilight asked, giving the stallion a frustrated look. "Well..." Spike flitzed away, as the dragon's call went for an ear pinch. "Hey! She took us everywhere else in town!" The violet claw stopped before it reached its target. Twilight rolled her eyes as she packed the camera back into the saddlebags. "It's probably because of the forest," she pointed out, gesturing off into the distance. Spike's eyes followed to where she had pointed. The trail meandered on for a while, but even from here he could see where it led. A tangle of overgrown trees in the distance, the very appearance of them sending a shiver down the unicorn's spine. "Wait a second," he said. That couldn't be..." "Time Turner told us, remember?" Twilight said with a roll of her eyes. "Ponyville was founded right on the edge of the Everfree Forest." Spike swallowed hard. He could still remember the stories he heard as a colt. Tales of little ponies vanishing into those wild woods, never to be seen again. Even up at the Canterlot, the Everfree was a place to be feared. "So, Fluttershy just keeps a house up that way?" he asked, swagging so noticeably. "Talk about valuing your privacy." "Relax, Pose." Twilight encouraged him with a pat on the back of his neck. "Fluttershy's cottage should be at the edge. It's not like we're going in." Spike nodded as he continued, noticing some of the animals at the side of the road watching him pass. "Is that trouble?" "Mind, we do reuse bits from previous stories, don't we?" He chuckled a bit to himself. It was actually getting harder to believe how close they were getting to one of the most dangerous places in Equestria. Between the bright sunshine, the fuzzy critters, and the birds singing, he soon wasn't even thinking of the Everfree. He started to hum along with the birds, but his happy mood was brought to an abrupt end. Twilight's claw finally made good on its earlier promise, and a sharp pain shot through his ear. "Prose! Hang on!" she exclaimed, releasing the hold just as quickly. "Ow!" Spike complained, rubbing at his ear. "We gotta treat those claws soon, Twi. Or maybe I should get ear studs." He mused over the idea for a moment, before turning back to the dragon. "Hey, how do you think I looked with pierced ears?" he wondered, only to be shushed. "Shh! Listen!" she whispered, cupping one hand over her own ear fin. "Can't you hear that?" Spike tilted his head a bit and closed his eyes. The only sound he could hear was the cheerful twittering of birds singing a happy melody. His eyes went wide as he caught on, and it was an actual melody being sung, and not just random chirping. Stallion and the dragon looked at one another, just before heading in the direction the sound was coming from. A cluster of bushes sat not too far from the trail, as Spike pushed his way through. "Oof!" He and the female voice both grunted. There were two thuds, as Spike and the mare he bumped into both fell to the ground. This was followed by a rush of feathery wings, as a rainbow of birds scattered from a nearby tree. "Ugh!" Spike grunted, rubbing his sore nose. "Sorry about that." "Mommy!" a filly's voice cried out. "Oh, wait, guys! I just did 20 chapters of Dinky's high-pitched voice! I don't think I can deal with another one!" "You're going to do it." "I'm going to do it." Spike's eyes went wide, as he got a good look at who he bumped into. A familiar gray Pegasus, who had picked herself up from the ground. Next to her, with a worried look, stood a little unicorn filly with a pale purple coat. "It's all right, Muffin," she said as he ran a hoof through the filly's blonde mane. "It's just a little bump." "Does he do?" Spike and Twilight said at the same time. The Pegasus mare turned to them, one of her eyes erupting up to the sky as she did. A smile immediately split her muzzle, as though her wings fluttered a bit. "Mr. Prose! Twilight!" she said happily. "What brings you out here?" Memories of his earlier meeting with the male mare flashed through his mind. Spike's mind cast about, trying to find an answer that wouldn't inspire help for the male mare. Before he could speak up, though, the little unicorn tugged on Ditsy's wing. Mommy, she asked in a whisper, do you know these ponies? Silly me, Ditsy giggled a bit as he brushed her wing across the filly's back. Dinky, this is the new friend Mommy met at the train station. The one I was telling you about, remember? The filly thought for a moment, before nodding her head vigorously. She turned to Spike with a big smile on her face. Hi, Mr. Prose, she said cheerfully. I'm Dinky too. Spike smiled back at the foal, trying to ignore the feeling of his heart melting. Ditsy seemed to swell with pride as he placed one of her wings across her daughter's back. So, Mommy? Spike asked, green eyes appraising Ditsy. She's really your daughter? There was no way the mare was that much older than him. Maybe a year at most, as near as he could guess. Ditsy just smiled and nodded confirmation, nosing as Twilight punched him again. Dinky here's my little nothing, she declared proudly, as she nuzzled the purple foal. My heart! Sorry about leaving in such a rush earlier. I was almost late picking her up. Well, I think she's precious, Twilight said, holding a claw out to Dinky. Did your mommy mention me? Dinky said with a nod as he held out one hoof. You're Twilight, right? Mommy said you and Mr. Prose are writing about our party for the newspaper. Yep, that's us, Spike said as he watched the two Sarah Claw hosts shake. Actually, we were looking for a pony named Fluttershy. She's supposed to live out this way and... Spike conned himself a second too late. Ditsy's eyes already lit up at what he had just said. Oh, Fluttershy's right here, Ditsy exclaimed, gesturing toward a nearby tree. We were on our way home when Dinky heard the bird, so we decided... Ditsy? Spike tried to interrupt the mare, who kept tearing Terry away. Turns out she's going to have to sing for the princess, Ditsy went on, not noticing Spike's attempts to silence her. The unicorn looked to where Ditsy was pointing, only to be see nothing but a tree. Oh, there's Fluttershy. Sorry. A few of the birds had flown back and were nestled in the branches, but no sign of any pony else around it. Ditsy! Spike winced as he tried to regain his professional demeanor. Unless Fluttershy can turn into a tree, I don't see her around. Ditsy stopped talking and looked around, eyes rolling in opposite directions. Oh, that's weird, Ditsy commented, a fun hoof going to her chin. She was right here a second ago. Dinky tilted her head curiously as she wandered over to the tree. She peeked around the trunk and then smiled to others. I found you, Mommy, she teared, picking up something long and pink in her mouth and giving it a gentle tug. A soft meep could be heard as Dinky pulled. Spike made his way over, no-padded quill already floating beside him as he rounded the trunk. Tucked up against it was a yellow Pegasus, long tail grasping the filly's mouth. Miss Fluttershy? Spike guessed, causing the Pegasus to look up at him. Her blue eyes suddenly darted around the sight of the stallion. Long mane fell over her face, covering half of it. She merely squeaked something out and gave a little nod of her head. Oh, it's all right, Fluttershy, Ditsy encouraged, as he came around to the other side of the tree. Mr. Prose here just wanted to interview you. Interview? The yellow Pegasus stammered out, shaking her head. Oh dear, that's really... I wouldn't be very interesting. Her voice seemed to trail off, as Spike resisted the urge to just fling his writing equipment away. Looked as though Appleblom hadn't been exaggerating. Just a few questions? He tried to coax Fluttershy with a forced smile. It would really help me out. As Fluttershy looked back at Spike to respond, Twilight plodded out behind him. The Pegasus pony's jaw went slack, and her eyes sparkled at the sight of the purple dragoness. Is that a baby dragon? Spike looked back to Twilight, and suddenly seemed very worried. Before he could answer, a blur of yellow slipped past him, sending him spinning in place. He staggered a few steps, barely avoiding falling over as the world swam around him. In the meantime, the Twilight found herself with another pony right up in her face. Rather than Appleblom's curiosity, though, Fluttershy seemed to be radiating adoration. I've only ever seen pictures, she said in amazement, as she leaned closer to Twilight. Oh, she's just so cute. What's her name? Twilight took a step back, clearing his throat. I'm Twilight? Oh, you can talk, Fluttershy cast out, looking like she couldn't get any happier. I never realized dragons could talk. This is so wonderful. Well, that's a switch, Spike complimented as he rubbed his head. Fluttershy gets really nervous around strangers, Dizzy explained to Spike, as his eyes finally focused again. But she really loves animals, especially babies. I think Twilight seems sadder than her, Mommy. Diggy spoke up with a giggle. Twilight was slowly backing away from the Pegasus. Fluttershy, however, simply kept pace with her. The smile never left her face. As Spike grinned as his horn lit up. Twilight let out a yelp of surprise as a green aura sparked around her. She found herself sailing through the air on Spike's back. Ladies, if you'll excuse us for a second, Spike requested, stassing off before he could answer. Twilight kept a tight grip on her friend's mane as he galloped back onto the trail. He galloped to take a few deep breaths before letting the dragon hop down. Thanks, she said, wiping her brow. Yeesh, that Fluttershy is kind of... She trailed off as she noticed Spike giving her a contemplative look. Immediately, a sense of dread began to creep back into her chest. Hey, Twilight, Stallion said, hooking one foreleg around her back and pulling her close. We still need to get an interview with Fluttershy, right? I don't think I like where this is going, Twilight answered, slipping loose her Spike's grip. Come on, Twi, Spike begged, dropping down and grabbing one of her legs between his forehooves. You saw her? She could barely look at me in the eye, but she absolutely loves you. Yeah, and it's kind of creepy, Twilight answered, trying to kick her leg free. She stopped as Spike began to pout, lower lip quivering as he stared up to her. Please, he begged, still not letting go. It's for the article, and if we don't get something for Fluttershy... Twilight let out a relinquished sigh. You owe me big time, mister. She found herself being pulled into a tight embrace of Spike's forelegs. Sighing, she squirmed her way free and pointed right at the stallion. So, what are you going to be doing, Nan? She asked, tapping one foot. Well, Spike looked around before his eyes locked on a few clouds across the sky. I'll handle talking to the weather patrol. Seriously? Twilight asked. Hey, can't forget anybody for the article, he pointed out. Inkblood said he wanted us to report on everything. All right, Twilight said with a shrug. Spike levitated her a quill and square notepad. Seriously, though, when we get back to Canterlot, I'll buy you a whole jewelry store, Spike promised, drawing across over his chest with one hoof. You're the best, Twilight! The two headed back. Twilight resisted the urge to cower again, as Fluttershy immediately locked eyes onto her. She would have to tell Cadence. Celestia ceased pacing about the throne room. The glorious marble hall stopped echoing with her hoof steps. No doubt the guards outside would be relieved at the end of the noise as she went over her only remaining option. There was no doubt the younger Alicorn would be horrified with the prospect. Chances are she would fight even harder to be allowed to go to Ponyville and try to stop this. Celestia tried to plan out what to say, how to praise things to get her so that her precious niece wouldn't be anywhere near the danger. Your Majesty? Astalia's voice cut into Celestia's thoughts. She looked up to see a strapping young unicorn bowing at the throne room entrance. He walked up, decorative purple armor clanking lightly as he approached. Captain Shiny Armor, Celestia said, returning to her practiced smile. You have something to report? I'm just here to inform you that your chariot will be arrived shortly, the armor unicorn answered, snapping a quick salute. I was also wondering if anything was wrong. Wrong? What do you mean? Celestia managed to keep her tone even. Surprisingly, her guard captain actually seemed a bit nervous as he lowered one trembling hoof. As an offense he was used to having on others at this point, though. Something about realizing they were questioning a sun-raising alicorn seemed to put most ponies off. The guards outside said you've been pacing almost non-stop since lunch, Shiny Armor reported. That's the only reason why I asked. Celestia let out a small sigh, when a thought suddenly came to her. She looked over to the stallion before her, a coy smile beaming to her face. Now that you mention it, Captain, she said, her magic closing the doors of the throne room, I have a small matter that will need tending to while I'm gone. Chapter 6 Canterlot, being home to Equestria's ruling class, tended to see a steady influx of visitors. While most were content with the train, there was no denying that airships were popular among some. As such, the landing docks overlooked the valley below were always kept ready to receive dignitaries from near and far. It was there that Shiny Armor was waiting, watching as one of the royal airships approached. He gave his helmet one last adjustment and pulled himself to attention. The ship would be docking within seconds, and his orders for Celestia were clear. The ship pulled up, and mooring ropes were lashed into place. A gangplank was over, and Shiny stepped onto the end of it. On behalf of Princess Celestia and the Royal Guard, he said in a apprentice even tone, it is my pleasure to... Shiny? A voice gasped from the ship. The armored stallion found his voice halting in his throat. Disembarking from the airship was an elegant pink mare, an alcorn mare with the same look of familiar shock on her face as shining armor. Cadence! He gasped out, before his face split into a wide grin. Before he could make a move, the mare charged up to him. As he pressed up against him, one of her forelegs wrapping around his back. I don't believe it! She said, releasing the friendly embrace and stepping back. It's been so long! I know what you mean, Shiny agreed, thankful that his helmet was hiding his blushing cheeks. I haven't seen you since you used to full sit your cousin up at the castle. You still remember how we used to talk between your training sessions? She asked in a reminiscent tone. Now look at you. Shiny armor. Captain of the guards! Well, yeah. The stallion rubbed the back of his head. Oh, right, kind of have a job to do. Cleared his throat, trying to ignore Cadence as she giggled. The mare had a hoof over her mouth, but she waited for him to continue. Princess Celestia, unfortunately, can't greet you in person, he reported, trying to sound official, even with a smile cracking through. She requested that I, as captain of the Royal Guard, escort you to the castle. There was silence between the two of them. The pair of baggage handlers quickly resumed carrying their loads before they were caught eavesdropping. Have fun with that? Cadence asked. The both of them burst out laughing, Shining actually wiping a tear from his eye. It's great seeing you again, he stared, gesturing towards the waiting stagecoach. I guess Princess Celestia really wanted to add a surprise to both of us. I see it worked, Princess Cadence responded as he started toward it. Oh, Shining, you've got to tell me what you've been up to. There'll be plenty of time for that, Shining Armor responded as his magic flipped open the door to the coach. Actually, He trailed off, cheeks burning so hot he was sure Cadence would notice him. The alcorn looked concerned, her purple and yellow mane bobbing as she leaned closer. Yes? Well, Celestia wanted me to keep an eye on you until she returned after the sunrise. Shining Armor explained, before taking a nervous swallow continuing. So I just had the idea of maybe attending the celebration together. I'm off duty at sunset. Shiny. Cadence's voice was barely a whisper. She stopped at the entrance of the coach. The stallion tried to stay composed, but his shuffling forehoofs were a dead giveaway. Much to his surprise, Cadence gently nuzzled his cheek in response. I loved you, she said with a grin. You loved... Great! Shining Armor cleared his throat as the princess boarded the coach. We'll just get you settled at the castle first. You must be tired after the trip. On the way, I want to hear everything, Cadence said as Shiny attached his harness and started down the street. How has your family been? Great. They're all great, Shiny said with a chuckle. Spike's reporting for the Canterlot Sun now, and my parents, well, you get to see them tonight. Shining Armor and Cadence were so involved in their conversation, neither of them bothered to look up. Celestia smiled down from her Pegasus-pulled chariot as she watched her niece escorted to the castle. It was quite clear that her niece had thrown out any thoughts of heading to Ponyville. The white alicorn turned her gaze forward again as her own escort started toward the valley. It wouldn't be a very long trip by air. She still had enough time to enjoy the view of Canterlot and mountains in the sunlight. Commander Aquilinus, she asked, raising her voice to be heard over the wind, feel free to take the scenic route. We're ahead of schedule anyway. Spike's head jerked at the sudden sneeze. Phew! Ooh, Dinky said with a giggle from her mother's back. Looks like some pony is talking about you. I hope it's not Twilight. Spike sniffled as he started walking again. The trip back town seemed shorter than the one out. It was already passing buildings he recognized. He could see Town Hall in the distance. Dizzy's wings were flapping as hard as she kept pace overhead, Dinky clinging to her back. Are you sure she's gonna be okay? Dizzy asked, drawing the stallion's eyes back out to her. I've never seen any pony, or animal, get so nervous around Fluttershy. Spike could still picture his dragon assistant as Dizzy spoke. She'd probably be trembling under Fluttershy's kindly stare as the Pegasus doted on her. He honestly wasn't sure whether the thought of it was funny or kind of sad. Twilight just gets a little antsy when ponies stare at her, Spike explained, shaking the image from his mind. She'll be fine. It's not the first time she's handled an interview for me. Spike saw the mailman nod at him, but he didn't focus on her. His eyes had been drawn past her and the few clouds hanging above. He could see the sun and its set alarms blaring at his head. It was already well into the afternoon position in the sky. Oh, man. Is that late already? Spike fretted in place as he picked up his pace. I've got to find that weather manager, fast! Hey, your Tiger! Maybe he can help! Dissy's voice once more drew Spike away from his thoughts. Hi, Tiger! Hi, Mr. Tiger! Dinky called out as well, waving one hoof. Spike's gaze turned away from the sun. Standing on the square of Town Hall was the Earth Pony he remembered from lunch. Tiger seemed to be in the midst of glaring impatiently at the slightly cloudy sky. At Dissy's greeting through his grim look changed to a smile. Ah, Mr. he said as the trio approached. Wonderful to see you and your delightful daughter. And Mr. Prose, how is your article coming? It's coming, Spike admitted, eyes starting back to the sun for a second. Say, have you... Dinky suddenly interrupted, a big smile on her face. Are the directions in Town Hall done? Dinky, Dissy said softly, one hoof pressing against the filly's mouth. You know it's rude to interrupt. Spike was banging at her as the curse in front of the filly. He took a deep breath, holding it in as she turned to him. I'm sorry, Mr. Prose, Dinky said, her little eyes brimming with an apologetic look. How can you stay mad at this? Spike released his breath and just waved one hoof. Dinky smiled, turning back to Time Turner, tousled her mane a bit. Well, the technical licenses are done. Time Turner answered, before he began pacing about. Oh, a big market horse got back with the rest of the food. He and Verity's to be arranging it right now. Wait, already? Spike gasped, frustration losing to curiosity. It hasn't been that long since you sent him back. It's because his family's in town, right? Dissy guessed. Right you are, mister. Time Turner said with a smile and nod. We've got a whole family of apples preparing treats. Can we go set up in Town Hall, Mommy? Dinky said, pouncing in place. Please, 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 please. I want to see the decorations Miss Bergen made. Dissy gave Time Turner a big smile. He responded with a slightly nervous chuckle. Well, I guess it wouldn't hurt if you two went in and looked, he admitted. Let's don't touch anything until Verity okays it. Dinky was off like a shot, leaping for Dissy's back and running off of a chair. Thanks, Time Turner, Dissy said, flashing out after the filly. Dinky, wait for me! Spike watched the two of them dashed off, his mind already picturing just what sort of mess might get made inside. Unfortunately, he was having trouble finding the ideas funny as he looked up and reminded him of the timeline. Apologies if I'm intruding, Time Turner spoke up as Spike turned back to him. But if you're here, the bless Twilight. Oh, she's handling interviewing Fluttershy, Spike answered, glad to finally have an opening. I came back here to talk to the weather manager for my article. Ah, Time Turner bit down on his lip, his eyes staring back to the sky. Let me guess, Spike sighed, rubbing his forehead as he felt a headache starting. She's not available right now? Actually, no pony has seen Miss Das all day, Time Turner corrected, as he waved a hoof to the clouds above. She was supposed to be cleaning this up, but... You've got to be kidding me! Spike shouted, one hoof stomping the ground. Yogurt could hear the rust of blood in his ears as he unleashed his frustration. A clatter of hooves reminded him he wasn't alone as Time Turner jumped back at the outburst. Just bit down his lip again, realizing what he had just yelled. Whoa! A voice broke in before he could apologize. Is something wrong here? Both of the stallions looked up to be greeted by a dark gray, almost black, Pegasus stallion. Silvery blue mohawk bounced with each flack of his wings as he hovered in place. Time Turner visibly relaxed and cleared his throat. Nothing to concern yourself with, Thunderlane, he said, waving one hoof. Glad you're finally alive. Yeah, sorry it took so long. Pegasus apologized, jerking his head to the side. Had to pot a few stray clouds over the forest. Just give me a few minutes to clear the rest of this up. The dark-colored Pegasus set to work, swooping in the air and working the clouds with his hooves. Time Turner breathed a small sigh of relief and nodded his head. Spike swallowed hard before stepping up behind the Earth Pony. Sorry about that. Time Time looked back up and let slip a chuckle. Oh, no worries. I can only imagine the time you've had trying to get somebody to talk to you today. You have no idea, Spike affirmed. Big Mac of Fluttershy flashed through his mind. So, who's this guy? Oh, Thunderlane, Time asked. He's the only pony on the weather team that was ready to put in overtime today. The two watched as the Pegasus obliterated one of the smaller clouds with a swift kick. There hadn't been many clouds around to start with, but Thunderlane had still cleared most of them surprisingly fast. He settled down on the smaller of the remaining puffs, Hoof rubbing his chin as he looked up at the other one. That last one looks pretty big. Thunderlane called down to the two of them, pointing to the cloud. Think I got rude to busting open? Spike looked curiously between Earth and Pegasus ponies. Time Turner seemed to be mentally gazing the distance between the cloud and Town Hall before slowly nodding. It looks like you're good, he called back, before ushering Spike backward. We should stop back a little. Why? Spike asked. Thunderlane threw up and fastened into the dark cloud. What's he doing? Thunderlane's specialty is hunting storm clouds, Time Turner answered, pointing up at the now sparking mass. So, to break up one lost one, he's learned to agitate them from within, and, well, you'll see enough. The larger crowd was darkening. A tiny electric bolt danced over its surface. The whole thing began to tremble before, with a final crack! It exploded with a BOOM! Thunderclap. Spike got 10 feet straight as the noise, as a multicolored blur shot straight up from the vaporized cloud. Thunderlane came streaking from the flash, pointing to the cloud he had landed on earlier. The much smaller cotton puff burst as soon as he made contact. Stallion hit the ground, a broad smile on his face, as the sign showed down from the now cloudless sky. Well, how's it look? He asked, a somewhat cocking tone to his voice. Well done, Thunderlane, Time Turner congratulated, eyes scanning the sky. Clear skies, perfect for watching the sunrise. That was awesome! Spike gasped before he could stop to himself. Hey, how did you make that rainbow-colored lightning bolt? Rainbow-colored? Thunderlane asked, looking back up. I didn't... Thunderlane! A mare's voice shouted from high above. Uh-oh. The name's pony's wings snapped shut at his sides. Down from the clear sky descended a cyan Pegasus mare, her striking mane and tail covering every color of the visible spectrum. Spike couldn't help but notice the similarity between her cutie mark and Thunderlane's. The only difference was the lightning bolt coming from her cloud was 3 different colors. What's the big idea? The mare fumed, eyes on to Thunderlane. You almost fried me! Sorry, Dis. Thunderlane apologized, taking a few steps back. I didn't even know you were up there. Tiger asked me to handle clearing the sky, so... The blue Pegasus pony's glare turned to frown Stallion at that remark. Time Turner inhaled sharply through his teeth as she rounded on him. Oh, he did, huh? She asked, jamming the earth pony with one hoof. Cloud cleaning was supposed to be my job today. Well, Miss Rainbow Dash, Time Turner responded, pushing her host aside. Perhaps if you had been doing your job instead of goofing off, I wouldn't have had to bother Thunderlane. I was not goofing off, responded Rainbow Dash, crossing her forelegs in a huff. I was napping. Spike boldly backed away as the two began arguing. Couldn't make out the words, their voices raising to try and drown one another out. The reporter took his seat to watch the mess unfold, finding Thunderlane sitting next to him. This happened a lot? Spike asked, watching the two. A little too much. Thunderlane answered with a shrug. TT tries to keep the town running like clockwork, but Dash keeps her own schedule. Spike nodded as a few green sparks leapt from his horn. Quill and paper slowly floating next to him, setting themselves to record the argument. So, Thunderlane said, running a hoof over his mane. Just who are you again? Huh? Oh! Spike gasped as he rubbed his forehead. Sorry, been a long day. His magic levitating the press pass from his hat, hovering in front of Thunderlane. I'm Purple Prose, from the Canterlot Sun, he introduced himself, as the Pegasus took the pass. I was hoping to get an interview with Rainbow Dash about tomorrow morning's celebration, but... The two looked back at the arguing duo. Rainbow Dash seemed to be getting more and more animated as she went on. In sharp contrast, Time Turner was seated and seemed to be straining to keep calm. Yeah, don't see that happen, Thunderlane said, as he returned to pass. Yeesh! I went down today to try to question ponies. You probably should have planned that better. It was sort of last minute, Spike admitted, looking at the sky. Say, did you seriously clear the whole town on your own? Fine! Raymond Dad's voice broke in before an answer could be spoken. Wings puppy as he flew off. Guess I'll just practice some since I'm not needed here! In the blur of colors, the man was gone. Time Turner's hoof massaged his temples as he squeezed his eyes shut. Oh dear. Mr. Prose! He gasped, eyes snapping open. I'm sorry, you wanted to speak with her, didn't you? Actually, I don't think that's going to be a problem, Spike responded, nodding to Thunderlane. I mean, Raymond Dassey cleared the whole town herself, did she? No, I hate to take care of that, Thunderlane answered, stretching his wings a bit. What? Is that important? Only if you think getting interviewed for the most read paper in Equestria is important, Spike answered with a big grin, as his quill and paper floated out next to him. Credit where it's due, right? Thunderlane's eyes widened in surprise, as he jumped back to his host. You serious? He asked, grinning. That would be so cool. Oh, wait, shoot! His host met his face as he shook his head. Spike could feel the urge to throw something to start to rise again. I'm sorry, I can't! Thunderlane apologized. I gotta pick up my brother from the Thunder Library and... The library? Spike cut in, smile returning. That's great! I'm meeting my partner there. We can talk on the way. Really? Thunderlane asked, before nodding his head. Well, okay then. Spike was cheering inside his head. Fireworks to rival the cloud explosion lighting up his thoughts. Finally, he could see things beginning to turn away from him. Hard to see things are going your way, Time Turner said, patting Spike on the back. Do you need any help finding the library? No thanks, Spike answered, with a shake of his head. Ditsy took me past it earlier. She showed it to him 5 times on a circus tour. Spike decided not to mention that part out loud. Time Turner just nodded in response, until a look of worry flashed through his eyes. All right, Pony said, looking back to Town Hall. I'd best make sure everything is all right in there. Take care, you two. Bound Stain danced toward the building Ditsy and Dinky had entered. Spike let slip a little chuckle, his shoulders feeling a bit lighter. Well then, he said, turning back to Thunderlane. Ready to go? So, the Pegasus answered, as the two started moving. So, where's this interview start? Let's see. Spike's magic flipped to a fresh page as his quill moved on its own. How about with what you've been doing before Time Turner came to you for help? The two stallions continued on, Spike's quill dutifully recording everything. Unicorn allowed himself a slight distraction as Thunderlane spoke. He could see the top of the old tree that held the town's library. The Unicorn smiled with anticipation as he thought of relating this little story to Twilight.